So I titled this video, "The US is great, but..." In this video, I want to talk about the pros of not living in the US. And as someone who is probably considering living abroad, if you eventually take that step, if you make that move, I don't think you ever want to live in the US ever again. Now, that's not to say that the US is bad in every way. The US is still considered the most desirable country to live in the world. I still think it is. For anyone who's looking for opportunities and wants to do some really big things, the US is the place to go. But if you have your life together, maybe you're looking for other opportunities, you want to live abroad, work abroad, and just, raise a family abroad, maybe you might want to start looking at some other places in and around the world that you may want to move to. In this video, I just want to distill some of the reasons why I feel like living abroad is for everyone, and why I think you should do it if you are considering it. If you're not considering it, there's no need to even watch this video. But if living abroad is something you've been considering, stick around. This video is going to be interesting. I moved to the US about 6 years ago from Nigeria. I've talked about this so many times, and this was one of the biggest and best things I could have ever done for myself and for my family and for my future. But after living in the US for a while, I realized that living in the US is not something I want to do long term, and I still want to explore the world a little bit more and just spread my wings and find my tribe and enjoy the beauty of this world. And I've been traveling almost full time as digital nomad for almost 2 years now, and I've seen some things around the world that I feel like are very important for everyone else to see and experience, and I'm going to share that with you in this video. So if you're considering traveling, this video is going to give you some of the things that you may want to consider. So let's talk about the cost of living in the US. We all know that the United States is one of the least affordable countries to live in the world, supported by the fact that US citizens and residents have one of the highest average income or salaries in the entire world. So cost of living, of course, is really high because you're making so much money, but at the end of the day, you're spending a lot of money on rent, on pretty much everything, every basic thing that you need. You're spending 3, 4, 5 times more than the rest of the world. So cost of living is something that you should consider if you're planning to live abroad. Say you want to go live in Latin America, for example, places like Colombia, you can live on under $1,000 a month, and that's inclusive of rent, food, pretty much everything that you need, utilities, internet, water, electricity, everything that you might need under $1,000 a month. And the same goes for most of Latin America as well. All of these countries offer a very solid quality of life. Of course, it's not the same as the United States, where you have pretty much everything you need at your beck and call. But the fact that you can get a lot of the things that you need to have a solid lifestyle in Latin America while paying a fraction of the price, I think it's something to consider. While living in Mexico, I spend anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 a month on everything I need. And that's inclusive of me living in a 1-bedroom apartment, food, eating out at least 3 to 4 times a week, going out on the weekends, hanging out with friends. So these are things that you should consider, because of course you can get the same thing in the US, but the quality of those things is not the same. I tell people, once you go to South America and live there for a while, it's going to be really hard for you to go back to the United States. Now let's talk about the quality of life. This hinges on my first point as well. Quality of life outside of the US is second to none. It's not the same as the United States. Now let's talk about the way people approach life. In the US, for example, a lot of people like to, brag that they work hard. And because it's the requirement of surviving in a space and in a country like United States, of course, you need to work hard. Being a capitalist society, you need to, fight for almost everything you get. And that really takes a toll on other aspects of your life, your quality of life, the way you see life, the way you approach life. You don't spend a lot of time with people. You're almost, by yourselves. You drive to work, you come back home, you go to sleep, you wake up the next morning, you do it all over again. The only times where you can go out and socialize and be around people and do stuff outside of your work or outside of the work that consumes your life is maybe on the weekends. And even on the weekend, the last thing you want to do is go hang out and socialize. And that's the quality of life that I think is missing, by living in the United States. A lot of people work really hard, and it's good because, of course, you make money. Of course, as an immigrant, that's what you want, right? You want to be able to make as much money as possible, help your family, help the people around you. But if you're not an immigrant, of course, it means that you're stuck in the society. But it doesn't have to be like that. You can remove yourself from this bad quality of life that exists in the US, and you can give yourself something different outside of the United States. Of course, Latin America is where I think a lot of people can start, but there's so much more on the other side of the world, say in Southeast Asia, in Eastern Europe, in the Balkans, where you can have much better quality of life, paying much less than you're paying in the United States right now. I'm in Albania right now. I I spend anywhere from $1,000 to $1,200 a month, and that's me, going all out, balling out every day, going out on weekends. I eat out every day. I hardly ever cook my own food, so I just order food, or I go out to a nice restaurant and I get my meals there, and I go out, I socialize, I have a nicer quality of life than when I was in the United States. So this is something you should consider if you're planning on living abroad. Now let's talk about safety. How safe can it get living abroad? If you're not traveling, or if you're not a constant traveler, you realize that a lot of people will tell you to not go to certain places in the world because it can be unsafe, especially in Latin America and some parts of Europe right now. But the fact of the matter is that if you are living in the US, you're probably at greater risk than someone who is living outside of the US, and that is a fact. So if you're thinking about how safe can you get abroad, I'm here to tell you that you are much safer traveling the rest of the world than you would be traveling the United States. Of course, everywhere can be unsafe depending on where you go, but if you just consider the statistics and the facts of major cities around the US and major cities outside of the US and how crime can be a thing in these places, you realize that the United States is much more dangerous than a lot of these other cities. When I'm in the United States and I'm in a city like Baltimore, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable going out at night in a city like Baltimore. But when I'm out in Mexico City, I can walk anywhere at midnight, at 2 a.m. in the morning without having to, fear that something is going to happen to me. And the same applies for the rest of South America. If you're smart about it and you're just cautious generally, you should be fine. Safety is not something to worry about. I've been traveling almost 2 years now. I have never been in a situation where I felt unsafe ever. And if you ask anyone who's been traveling for even longer than I have, I believe they will tell you the same thing. So safety is not, or it should not be, a concern if you're planning to live outside of the United States. Now let's talk about community and friendships and how you integrate yourself better. So if you're in the United States right now, chances are you have a handful of friends. You hang out every now and then, probably not much. And that is something that does not happen at all when you're traveling. Of course, it depends on how you want to approach it. But if you're looking to immerse yourself into community of other people who travel, people who share the same ideas and ideologies as you, I always say when I meet friends abroad that if you meet someone in a bar in Mexico City or in Medellin, Colombia, and they're from the United States, chances are you're going to become instant friends. You know why? Because there's a pre-qualification there. If you leave the United States and you're traveling the rest of the world, and I am also doing the same thing, chances are there's some ideologies that we share, that we both believe in, and that on the basis of that we can become instant friends. So if you're traveling the rest of the world, you find that it becomes way easier to make friends, it becomes way easier to be part of communities and people to be accepting and to just be open-minded. You're free from all of the stress and a lot of the stories and things that the media shoves down our throat, and they just want to get a reaction from us. You just realize that you're freer. You go out there, you're happy. Every day you wake up is another opportunity to meet someone new, to do something adventurous. So these are some of the reasons why I feel like living in the United States might be less beneficial than living abroad. And if you're thinking about traveling right now, I want to say go for it. Of course, if you have a remote job and you can take your job with you on the road, good for you. But if you cannot do that yet, then I want to invite you to watch some of the videos that I made about making money while traveling and how to find remote jobs and things of that nature. If you have any questions about traveling as a digital nomad, leave them down in the comments section down below. And if you have any questions, follow me at ifdaniel.did on Instagram. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. Check out the links in the description for some of the things I use, my health insurance and my banking app that works in over 200 countries across the world, and other things and resources that I have down there as well. My name is Daniel, and I will see you in the next video.